My name is Vishal Sharma, and I am the co-chair of the UK BMA Consultants Negotiations Committee. I have prepared two presentations for you in order to help you understand the NHS pension scheme. In this first presentation, I will outline what constitutes pensionable pay, give an overview of the different sections of the NHS pension scheme, and discuss some of the additional features such as death in service and ill health retirement. I will briefly touch on pensions taxation, but this is covered in more detail in part 2 of the presentation. Although most of this information is relevant to all consultants, there are some specifics that relate to consultants in England. Separate slide sets are available for different regions. Consultants receive a number of different payments, and some of these are pensionable, whereas other payments are non-pensionable. In order to fully understand how your pension is calculated and how any taxes are applied, it's essential to know which components of pay are pensionable. Types of pay that are pensionable include your basic pay, up to a maximum of 10 programmed activities. On-call supplements are also pensionable. Clinical Excellence Awards were previously all pensionable, but following an agreement with the BMA and NHS employers in England, new local CAs from the 1st of April are non-pensionable. Existing local CAs, old and new national CAs, and discretionary points in Scotland remain pensionable. Commitment awards in Wales are also pensionable. Management or responsibility payments are usually pensionable, but there is some variation locally around this. All other payments are non-pensionable. This will include additional PAs, income from waiting list initiatives, locum work, whether this is covering vacancies in your own trust or done externally via an agency, any acting down payments, and any income from medicals or professional fees. It's also important to remember that non-NHS income can have an impact, particularly on your annual allowance, so any rental, private or commercial income should be considered. This slide shows the consultant pay scales for England, but the pay scales in the other nations are broadly similar. Instead of local CEAs, Wales has commitment awards payable every 3 years. The consultant pay scales were designed very much with a final salary pension scheme in mind, and typically pensionable pay is at its highest close to retirement. With a move to a career average scheme, this may not be the optimal pay structure going forward. In addition, as you can see, there are some big jumps in pensionable pay, particularly between pay points 6, 7 and 8 on the left-hand column, and also if you're awarded a CEA, and this can have significant tax implications. So what are the key features of the NHS pension scheme? The NHS pension scheme is what is known as a defined benefit scheme. This means that you know what you'll receive at retirement, assuming of course the government doesn't change the scheme along the way. The scheme is not reliant on investment growth to pay the pension. Pension contributions are essentially fixed and are based on a percentage of your pensionable pay, and the employee cannot control how much they input into their pension each year. There are actually 4 separately managed pension schemes, one for England and Wales, one for Scotland, one for Northern Ireland, and one for the Isle of Man. The scheme has 3 different sections. There is the 1995 section, which is a final salary scheme, the 2008 section, which is also a final salary scheme, based on final reckonable pay, and the 2015 scheme, which is a career averaged revalued earnings scheme. The contribution rates were previously 6%, but following what was described as a once-in-a-generation pension scheme review, the NHS agreed to increase contribution rates to between 5 and 8.5%, depending on the level of pay. However, despite that, following the review by the Independent Public Service Pension Commission, led by Lord Hutton, significant increases to the employee contribution were brought in 2015. This table shows the current contribution pay rates by pay band. As you can see, the pension contribution rates paid by the employee vary from 5% to 14.5%. This is also based on whole-time equivalent pay, so consultants will be paying pension contributions at a rate of 13.5% or 14.5%. The BMA have continued to challenge the fairness of these tiered contribution rates, particularly given that most consultants are now on a career average pension scheme. So what do the different sections of the scheme look like? The 1995 scheme, as mentioned, is the final salary scheme. Your pension is calculated as 1/80th of your final pensionable pay for each year of service spent in the scheme. Your final pensionable pay is the highest pensionable pay in the last 3 years before retirement. If there are periods spent working less than full time, these are scaled accordingly. So for example, a consultant with 35 years full-time experience and 6 years working at 50% has 38 years of service, 35 full-time and half of 6. This is then multiplied by their final pensionable pay to calculate their pension. In addition to this, they get an automatic tax-free lump sum worth 3 times their pension. The normal pension age for the 1995 section is 60. The 2008 section came into effect on the 1st of April 2008, and the 1995 section was closed to new members at that time. There was a choice exercise run whereby existing 1995 section members could choose to transfer to the 2008 scheme. There are some important key differences. Firstly, instead of using the final pensionable pay, the 2008 pension is calculated on your final reckonable pay. In addition, rather than 1/80th, pension is accrued at 1/60th. There is, however, no automatic lump sum in the 2008 scheme, but if you transferred from the 1995 scheme, there is a mandatory lump sum equivalent to the value of the lump sum built up at the time of transfer. You can, however, convert pension to a lump sum at a rate of £12 lump sum for every £1 of pension. The normal pension age in this section is 65. As discussed, the 2008 scheme uses reckonable pay to calculate the pension. This is actually quite a complicated concept. Essentially, it is the average of the best 3 consecutive years in the last 10. However, in order for this to be a fair comparison between years, the pay from each year needs to be revalued to adjust for inflation. This is done by multiplying pay from previous years by a pensions increase factor that is published each year. To help members with this, we have a worked example on the BMA website and are developing a tool to calculate this. The 2015 scheme is a career averaged revalued earnings scheme. There is an accrual rate of pension at 1/54th of your pensionable pay throughout your career. The key difference between this and the other schemes is that the amount of pension you accrue varies according to your pay. In contrast, in other schemes, when your pension is calculated, 1 year of service as a house officer has the same benefit as 1 year as a consultant at the time of retirement. The amounts paid into the scheme are then revalued on a yearly basis at a rate equivalent to the Consumer Prices Index plus 1.5%. When the scheme was introduced, there was protection offered to older members. This meant that people within 10 years of normal pension age, i.e. for the majority people aged 50 or over on the 1st of April 2012, they were offered the option to remain in the more advantageous 95 or 2008 scheme. Members within 13.5 years of normal pension age at this date were offered tapered protection. Other key features of this scheme were that the normal pension age was linked to the state pension age, i.e. for most people that's 67, rising to 68. Also, any accrued benefit in the 1995 or 2008 schemes was retained. I'm also briefly going to touch on some of the other benefits of the NHS pension scheme. Firstly, the scheme provides payment for those who have to retire early due to ill health. In each of these sections, you are entitled to any built-up benefits at the time you need to retire. If, however, this is for a serious illness and you are unable to undertake any form of work again, enhanced payments are available. These payments are equivalent to 2/3 of the benefit you would have received if you worked until normal pension age for the 1995 or 2008 sections. The benefit is lower for the 2015 scheme at 50% of future accrual. If someone unfortunately dies whilst they're a member of the NHS pension scheme, support is offered to the member's family. Although the calculation is subtly different, in essence each section offers a lump sum equivalent to 2 years of earnings. In addition, there is an ongoing pension payable to a dependent adult and/or dependent children. The 1995 section offers the most generous terms, with the 2015 scheme the lowest of the 3 sections. Pension contributions are deducted before income tax is paid. Consequently, this results in tax relief being obtained on pension savings. The government has introduced various measures to limit the amount of tax relief that is available. Principally, these measures are the annual allowance, the tapered annual allowance, and the lifetime allowance. The standard annual allowance, which is the maximum your pension can grow without incurring additional taxation, is now set at £40,000 per year. However, through a process of tapering, this annual allowance is reduced by £1 for every £2 that your adjusted income is over £150,000. This is assuming that your taxable pay is also over £110,000. This adjusted income is not just your salary, but it includes your pension growth. The lifetime allowance was reduced to £1 million in 2016 and remained static until 2018. It now increases by CPI each year. The current annual allowance is £1,055,000. As you will see in the second of these presentations, these measures are impacting doctors in unintended ways. To summarise, it's important to understand which components of pay are pensionable and which are non-pensionable. You need to be aware of what section of the scheme you are in and be aware of how pension is calculated. Please note that unless you are a protected member, you will be a member of two sections. You need to consider the other benefits of the scheme, such as ill health retirement and death in service, that may be reduced or lost if you opt out of the scheme. You also need to be aware of the potential tax implications of ongoing scheme membership.